Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ellis, and today I'm joined by Joe from Turfcast Podcast, back for the opposition view for Everton against Burnley at Turf Moor, Saturday, 5:30, under the lights. How are you doing, Joe?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Good, yeah, good. It feels like it wasn't that long ago since I last spoke to you. Of course, you were on the channel a few weeks ago to talk about the Cup game when Everton ended up
Yeah,
running out 3-0 winners. That was a
yeah.
disappointing one for you, wasn't
Less said about that, the better, mate. Let's move on.
Well, let's look at the league now then. So much has happened since we last spoke.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable how much has happened. Obviously, Everton have gone from struggling quite a lot to suddenly winning most games, and we were also hit by a 10-point deduction. And Burnley have just carried on not winning, I suppose, haven't they?
yeah. We just said off air, didn't we? But last time I was on the channel, you were dreadful, but showed signs of a bit of positivity. And now you're literally Barcelona. You've had 10 points taken off you, but yeah, it doesn't matter because you've claimed them all back. And there's been all these protests and corruption banners and all that. So Everton, there's been a lot going on at Everton at Goodison. Burnley's just the same, struggling at the bottom, losing pretty much every week. Although we have got a bit better. We have, we've started to slowly not be horrendous and just be below average. I think that's probably the best way of putting it.
Well, yeah, the results have, I suppose, they've got a bit closer, haven't they, in the last few weeks? Obviously, the massive 5-0 win, which we'll definitely talk about. And then, you
Yeah.
drew with Brighton, didn't you? You got beat to Wolves just narrowly, didn't you? But you're not getting battered anymore, I suppose. And let's talk about that 5-0 because I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I saw the score for that. What happened in that game?
Well, we scored after 15 seconds, and that just set the tone for it. Like every game plan that Sheffield United would have had was gone out the window. Obviously Heckingbottom was still there at the time, so you could see it in the Sheffield United players. As soon as that goal went in, their shoulders are down, their heads were down. You could tell they just didn't want to be there. You're like, this guy's getting sacked. Like we could go on and win this game comfortably. Um, and the sending off helped, but we were already 2-0 up at that point. Obviously, Ollie McBurney got sent off for two yellows when they should have been two separate reds. It's
Yeah, I
ridiculous,
agree.
but he got sent off anyway. And then because of that, tired legs in the second half, it was still 2-0 at that 75th minute. And then we just turned it into a rout, made it 5-0, played some brilliant football. And the signs were there that yes, we played what is essentially a championship team, not digging them out. We are probably the same as well, but it felt a lot like last season, like we were finding gaps and exposing these gaps. Like I said, that the 10 man helped in that and the tired legs, and we were creating some brilliant chances. Like Joey Good, I never said Joey Good Johnson. That's a long time ago. Johan Goodmanson, he came on it like the 70th minute, and he created like 5 goal scoring opportunities, like the most of anyone that weekend. And he was only on the pitch for 15 minutes. We were doing what we were doing last season to teams. But then obviously it just all feels a bit pointless now because the chat was right. Yeah, fair enough. We've beaten Sheffield United. We've gone from 4 points to 7 points. But if you then get nothing or only 1 point out your next two against Wolves and Brighton, it kind of feels a bit pointless. And then obviously we went to Wolves, got beat. Shouldn't have got beat. We got beat because of a stupid mistake by Dara O'Shea, who loves a mistake. I don't know how he's still getting started. Basically, give the ball away. They scored, and then the second half, when the onus was on us to get the goal, we just did absolutely nothing. Just literally, it was like we were the team winning. It was so passive, and that's why the first goal is massive in Burnley games. But Brighton managed to get ourselves in front. Then in the second half, they do what teams do when you're 1-0 down and took the game to us. Obviously, Trafford had a brilliant game. It was fantastic. About time, by the way, but it was fantastic. So that will hopefully do his confidence a world of good. Obviously, eventually it cracked and they got the equaliser. But I was pretty happy with the 1-1 down at Brighton. It just kind of felt like the Wolves game was just kind of like another, oh, here we go, typical Burnley performance from this season. But hopefully, we can kick on this weekend. But I think out of the Wolves game and this game, I think even though this one's at home with the form that you're in, probably include Brighton in that at the minute as well. I think it's the toughest game of the lot because of how good you've been since the points deduction.
So it's been a bit of a case of missed opportunities in some games, and obviously the Wolves
Yeah,
one and not seeing out the Brighton one, even though that is a pretty good result on paper, really. But yeah, looking at this game, is this one where you? Because I was thinking, oh, are Burnley fans looking at this and targeting it actually because of the position we're in the league, even though that's because of the deduction. Obviously, we're in good form, but of course,
yeah,
like if you win, you go within 2 points of us, and suddenly you drag us back in a bit there, don't you? So is it something you're looking at as like it's a massive game to really just keep us in it?
It's a massive game. I think any game apart from the top six, at home or away, you've got to be targeting. You've got to, because what I do is I sit here a lot and I get a lot of stick off Burnley fans for it, but I write off 12 games a season, any against the top six, home or away. And people are like, you can't have that mentality. It's like, well, I know that we're not going to beat them or get anything off them. So I'm writing them off. So, but then on the flip side of that, I see every single game. You could probably include Newcastle in that now as like a top seven, but obviously you've just put them to the sword. So then there's an example that maybe not. But there's a flip side of that. Is any team that we're playing outside of that top 6 or 7, you have to target and you have to think you can get points from. Yes, there's examples where we don't and get absolutely bullied, like down at Brentford, where we got battered 3-0, at Bournemouth, where I think it was 3-1 in the end. But you still got to look at these games and think you can get something out of them. So on that side of it, yes, I am looking at this game and targeting, thinking we have to get something out of it. But on the flip side of it, you said to drag you back in. I know you're on 13 points now, 17th. And like you said, we will go within 2 points of you. Regardless of what happens on Saturday, you guys will be fine. So I am not looking at thinking, because Burnley fans, I always sit here and say, we're down, the gap's too big. And the Burnley fans say, hold on, it's only like 5 points to 17th. I'm like, yeah, but it's not a true table in my eyes, because Everton will probably get some points back for a start. Probably, we don't know yet. And then even if you don't, you're going to finish 14th, 13th anyway. So I'm not looking at Everton thinking, let's target Everton, let's drag them back in it. I'm looking at Forest and the points that they're on. So if we obviously beat you, we'll be on 11 points and then with 3 points off Forest. That's the way I look at it. So yeah, targeting it, yes, because it's a game that isn't against the top 6, but not thinking about dragging Everton back in it personally. I'm thinking about your Palaces, your Forests. I was looking at your Bournemouth, but suddenly now they're Real Madrid. Same with Fulham, they're class as well. So it's tough at the minute. I'm struggling to see a way out of it for us. But first things first, let's get some points on Saturday.
It's definitely a big game for you guys, but I suppose for us, like if we win, we then go 8 clear, which is, I think for Evertonians, it would really give us that breather to know that. I suppose it'd be a bit of a draw a line in the sand underneath, obviously, the points deduction, and really be like, well, we've got past this now and we will stay up regardless. And if we get into a position where we're not thinking, oh, we could really benefit from these few points that we may or may not get back, then that's probably the position we want to be in. We don't want to be thinking, oh, we need these points. So if we can put a gap of 7, 8 points between you and Luton, that'd be massive for Everton. But that game on paper, it's a weird one because it seems like it's going to be absolutely perfect for Everton. And I just know that it won't be. But on paper, you think you guys, obviously, you play progressive football. You try and keep hold of the ball. You're obviously going to take the game to us. And in all of the games that we've won on the road, we've mastered being that counter-attacking team who lets the other team have the ball and then hits them when they get it back. And looking at this game, it seems like you're the best type of opposition for us. But I don't want to say that because you know what'll happen now. So looking at this game, do you kind of agree with that, or do you think that there's ways where you can really get at Everton?
I do agree with that. I think your strong points are our weaknesses. You've mentioned the cup game already. Just look at the goals that were scored. It had to be McNeil and Tarkowski, didn't it? I did say, I think, on the show that Tarkowski definitely scored. But it was a McNeil cross and a Tarkowski header. And I can't remember the other goals. The third one was the point where I was like, right, let's go. So I didn't really pay attention. I just remember seeing someone through on goal. I think, was it Beto? I can't remember.
Can't even remember at this point. We scored too many since.
So I was like, right, come on, we're going. But the week after a couple of weeks after against Arsenal, the weaknesses were really highlighted. Like we conceded 2 corners that were literally just a corner in front of Trafford, unmarked, nodded in, like so easy, and a cross. And they're our weak points are set pieces and crosses, and Everton's strong points, apart from the counter-attacking stuff, are set pieces and crosses. Just a typical Dice team. Yeah. And I do feel like you'll hurt us on that. Yes, Branthwaite's injured, which obviously is a bonus for us. Suspended. Yeah. And you've got another lad who's suspended, which will make you a bit weaker. But yeah, Tarky's still at the back for a start, and he's a beast. Burnley fans know how good he is. You've still got McNeil whipping the crosses in and the corners in, and his deliveries are decent. They've already hurt us this season. So I'm personally just expecting not a run-of-the-mill Everton win. I don't think it'll be 3-0 like it was at Goodison. fast forward, it's 3-0, 4-0, something like that. It's far too comfortable. But I am expecting an Everton win. Like I said, and you, as an Evertonian, you probably sat back a little bit and thought, oh, I can't be too confident. It'll be typical Everton now if we lose this. But just how good you are at the stuff that I've just mentioned, your set pieces and your corners. I think you'll get some joy against us on them. I do think we'll hurt you a little bit. We'll hopefully take the game to you and maybe get a goal. But I think Everton win this one, unfortunately for me.
I think there's a different dimension to it because of the players that are not going to be playing. Jared Branthwaite's been massive for us this season. He's been an absolute colossus at the back. But that's a lot of it is because of James Tarkowski as well. What a defender he has been for us. Honestly, one of the best free signings I've ever seen us make. He is just fantastic. He's a leader. He's in charge of that defense, and he's an absolutely brilliant defender who just put his head on anything, really. And the fact that he's there reassures me that whoever's going to be next to him should be able to have a decent game. That's likely to be Michael Keane. So it's going to be another Burnley pairing together. So you're going to be facing yet another former player there. I imagine Dwight McNeil will play too. So there'll be a few familiar faces. But on your side, I'm looking at your players now and thinking, Tresor's impressed me quite a lot lately. Is he kind of someone who we should be worried about? Who else are the real threats that are going to score against Everton or really like give us a lot of trouble?
It's bizarre because we had Luca Koleosho and Lau Foster, who none of which will be playing now. Unfortunately, obviously Lau Foster's got mental health issues, so he's not played for a while. Luca Koleosho's got an issue with his knee, so he's out now pretty much to the end of the season. So them two would have been the two that I'd have answered this question with. You mentioned Trezor, and he doesn't start at the minute, and he has started. I think he started against Brentford earlier in the season, and he was dreadful. He was absolutely dreadful in that match. He just didn't look interested. A lot of Burnley fans were criticising, saying he clearly doesn't want to be here. I won't go as far as saying that. I just felt like maybe the game had got away from him, and he didn't really want to, carry on in that game. But since then, he has been coming off the bench and doing quite well on the bench and doing stuff quite well there. So who knows? He might get a start. The problem is, all of our good players seem to be left-sided midfielders. Like there's nobody on the right at the minute. So it probably will be Wilson Odebear on the left. And he's probably the one that I'm going to answer this question with as the one that you need to watch out for, because he's come in and slotted in perfectly for the injured Luca Koleosho. And he's exactly like him in the sense that he gets the ball at his feet and tries to run at the fullbacks. And that's exactly what Luca Koleosho did. Now, we would be a very good side if we had somebody like that on the right hand side, but like I said, everybody seems to be left hand side, and if Odebear's playing, it's because Koleosho's injured, and then that means Tresor's on the bench. So Vincent might try and change it up a bit and put Trezor on the right, but what he does tend to do is put Trezor on the left, and then whoever's done well on the left the last few weeks, he sticks him out on the right, and then they both end up being crap. So it's been tough. It's been tough. But the player that I think you should watch out for is probably Wilson Odebear. He's only started, I think, the one game. I might be wrong on that one. He might have started another one earlier in the season, in the Premier League, guys. And that was against Brighton because of the Koleosho injury. So, yeah, fingers crossed he can recreate that, because he played very well against Brighton. Obviously got the goal and just ran at defenders and tried to make things happen, and obviously dragged us up the pitch because of that. So, yeah, I'll say Wilson Odebear, but I'm hoping for Trezor as well. Maybe get Trezor on the right and see how he does there.
There's quite a lot of young talent there, isn't there? I think for you guys, you must be thinking, oh, I wish they were 2 or 3 years older and a bit more experienced, because I suppose they've all come into a new league, obviously a team that's been promoted as well. It's difficult, isn't it? And if those players were maybe 2 more years along the line, then you could have serious talent there, couldn't you? Obviously, you could make money out of them in the future, but obviously the main priority now is staying in the league. And are they just not fully ready yet, would you say, some of these young lads?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd just say they're not fully developed mentally. Like with Luca Koleosho, like there's been a lot of debate about his end product, but I think with his end product, it means he's shooting. But it's his decision making as well. Like sometimes he gets into a position and makes the wrong choice, and obviously, as you say, that will come with experience. But it's bizarre because I was just talking to an Everton fan before this, and a lot of outsiders looking in do say, yeah, the focus should be staying on the Premier League. And I kind of agree it should be, but I feel the way that we've done our transfer business this summer isn't really like, oh, we need to stay in the league. It's a case of we are building a squad that's going to be very, very good in the future, or players that we can sell on for a lot of money and then rebuild. And I think that's what all this young talent is. Like you said, you got Mike Trezor, who's a little bit older, but I think if we go down, he's probably one that moves on. And I think we get some decent money for him. Well, whether we'll make back what we make for him, but there'll be some decent money coming in, what we sold for him, sorry. Then you've got Luca Koleosho, Wilson Orderbearer, who I've mentioned. Lyle Foster's still on the younger side of things. Then obviously you've got James Trafford. He's going to be England's number one, probably as long as Pickford wants it. I think Trafford will be the next guy, because I think Pickford's probably got another 2-3 years left in him. And then at that point, it's probably Trafford will be good enough to step up, because I can't see who else comes in, because Ramsdale's not playing. Obviously, that might change. I think Pope's on his way down now, as much as I love him. Second shoulder injury, I can't see him coming back from that. And he doesn't even get in the squad anyway anymore, which I think is wrong, but he chooses Sam Johnson over him. So, yeah, there's a lot of young talent in there, but I think a lot of it was purchased with the mentality of they will be very good in the future, rather than the side will be good now. But at the same time, I felt like we had a lot of players who were good enough in the side from last season who would have been the starters. Your likes of Muric, Benson and Zarora. All right, Benson's been injured, but would have been the starters, and then slowly bed these youngsters in. But instead, we've gone opposite. We've gone, right, all the new youngsters in, lads from last season on the bench. And yes, these youngsters are going to get better faster because of it. But I think it's at the jeopardy of our Premier League position, if I'm honest with you. And I think that's why we're going down, because we've got a squad that's got a lot of inexperience in it, that makes mistakes. Defensively, we're all over the shop half of the time. And I think that's because there's a lot of youngsters at the back. But next season, once we're back in the Championship, as it's looking like we will be, these players will be class, and then they'll come up with a further year of experience, and then hopefully we do something like Fulham do and battle for mid-table, and then have a really good squad and get stronger and stronger as we sell these players and open up like a conveyor belt of talent coming in. But yeah, we'll see. But I do think the Premier League status this season will probably end up dropping off us.
It does sound like a new model, doesn't it? I suppose around Burnley, and if that's the plan, I suppose you can believe in that. If the plan is to then make sure these players are nurtured. Obviously, a season in the Premier League's massive.
Yeah.
Even if you do go down, then get relegated, obviously not ideal, but then you can kind of build on that, can't you? And if you are making money on these players too, you can reinvest and then really build a squad. So that seems to be the new Burnley now. But just bringing it back to the old Burnley, of course, Sean Dyche is coming to Turf Moor for the first time since he left, actually. And obviously, last time he played against us at Turf Moor, it was a horrible day for Evertonians. But he's coming back now in a bit of a better place. And what's the reception going to be like from Burnley fans? Are they going to be pleased to see him? Is there going to be any animosity there at all? Because, of course, like you guys love him for what he did for you, but then it didn't end in an ideal way, did it, I suppose? But I feel like you guys still have some admiration for him.
Yeah, it didn't end in an ideal way, but that's no fault of Sean's. We had a poor season, but even though he was part of that problem, I don't think he was the only problem. I just think not that he outstayed his welcome, because that's not true at all. Burnley fans would still be happy if he was still there now. But I just feel like once you've been at a club for so long with the same players, because as we just mentioned, like the new conveyor belt of talent, like selling players, bringing new players in, the conveyor belt stopped completely at Burnley. We weren't signing players and we weren't selling players. Like that's the reason why the likes of Tarky and Ben Mee left for free. Like we should have sold Tarky like 2-3 years before we did, in my opinion. Not because he wasn't good enough, because he was fantastic for us, but we should have got some money, then reinvested. And then it's the same ideas by the same person being said to the same ears. And that's why it just went stale. Everything went stale. Like a lot of Burnley fans do still pine over Dyche and say, oh, we wouldn't have lost that game if Dyche were manager. It's like, people need to remember how poor he was in that final season when Dyche was the manager. Yes, like I said, I don't feel like it was his fault, but it was still there. However, he's a legend. Everybody loves him. Everybody's grateful for what he did. There's no animosity there. I think the only slight animosity that this is me personally, get off Dyche is the fact that he's so cold with it all now. Like he just never acknowledges the fact that he even was the manager. Like to him, it's done, gone. And like, hold on, Shaw, we were talking about building you a statue. Like we have a literal pub named after you. Like, let's not be so cold. I do feel like it's more of a mental, not a coping mechanism, because I don't think he needs to cope at all. But I just think it's more of a wall for him, just to say, right, done. gone to because that's kind of like his brand in it. Like I'm so stern and so emotionally stable. I don't need to talk about stuff like that. So that's just my. I wish he'd just be like, yeah, I love my time here, fantastic, great, but just because that's in the past, it's done. Forget about it. It's like, all right, mate, calm down. But yeah, there'll be no animosity at all. Like it was fantastic for us. We wouldn't be in the position that we are now if it wasn't for Sean. We wouldn't have been in the position to be able to hire a name like Vincent Kompany if it wasn't for Sean, who might have had a slow start to life this season, and his stock might have dropped a little bit, but I do still think he's going to go on to be a fantastic manager and achieve some great things in the game as a manager, like he did as a player. So yeah, no animosity. Would fully expect him to get a good reception. But in my opinion, the focus should be on the players and the current manager. Like I got a DM off a Burnley fan the other day, like another Burnley page saying like, "Oh, we're going to do a round of applause for Dash at 10th minute, or you want it?" And I didn't even answer it because I didn't want to be like no, to be like I don't like Dash, because I do, but I want to focus on our lads. Like if you want to do something in the 10th minute, do a chant. Like let's create a good atmosphere like for Burnley, not be big in Dash up, but clap him onto the pitch, clap him off the pitch. Thank you for everything you did, Sean. But for me, the focus should be on Vincent Kompany and the Burnley players.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. I suppose it's a chapter that you thank him for, but at the end of the day, on Saturday, all that matters is getting the win, isn't it? So, are you really wanting to go and appreciate the other manager? I suppose when you cross that white line, you're enemies again, aren't you, for
Exactly.
90 minutes? So,
Yeah.
it's all about actually winning that game. And obviously, you've said that you don't really expect that you're going to win the game, but I've also expressed my doubts about, can we go and do it again? Can we win four aways in a row, which would just be insane? I'm going to be going down there. Hopefully, have a pint in the Royal Dice if I pass it and see it, but I'll definitely be having a picture of it because it's just a sight to behold, isn't it? The fact that a pub's named after a football manager. But give us a prediction now. Let's see what you're thinking. What are you thinking score is going to be?
It I'd like to sit on the fence and say 1-1, but in my head, when I think about it logically, I would bite your hand off now for 1-1 with the form that you're in. Like that's saying something, because normally when we play Everton at home, like I said earlier, I do try and focus on all the games outside teams against top six. But in the years gone by, Everton has been a game where I'm like, right, 3 points minimum at home. It's got to be, because they've been so poor for the last few years. Whereas now you're coming through it, and I think I said on various Everton podcasts, potentially this one as well, like when you sign Dice, like he will become good for you. You just all need to be patient. I just felt like the fan base isn't very patient with Everton, and there's a lot of stuff, like even at the start of this season, like a lot of big name Everton fans and big name pages were like, right, that's it, I'm done, get him out. I was like, he will come good, just give him a chance. And I think you're coming around the other side of that now, and you're seeing what Dice can really do. The suspensions that you've got will help us, so it will be a little bit closer. We need to get the first goal. If we're going to get anything from it, we need the first goal. If you go 1-0 up, then it'll finish 1-0 to Everton, probably maybe even 2-0. But I'll be very surprised if we get the point. Like I said, I'll bite your hand off for it. So in my prediction, I'm going to go 2-1 to Everton, probably two corners, two McNeil corners, one James Tarkowski header, one Michael Keane header, just to rub the knife, stick the knife in even more.
That would really rub it in, I suppose, wouldn't it? I'm going to go with it. That would just be, we predicted that in the cup game, and then it went and happened, didn't it? And obviously, like Sean Dyche's first game for Everton, he Dwight McNeil crossed it into James Tarkowski, so that pattern.
Yeah, that was against Arsenal, that weren't it? I remember that.
It was. We beat an informed Arsenal team, and it was like the Burnley boys doing it for us. So we've got a bit of an appreciation for Burnley now, thanks to Sean, because we love him now. I think a lot of Evertonians are fully behind him because we're seeing it on the pitch, we're seeing the results. So I'm going to go with 2-0. I think you've only scored 16 goals, I think, this season. So obviously you're not free flowing in that sense. And I feel like we'll have enough. If you do score, then there might just be an individual error that'll cause it. But I expect that we're going to be organised again and hopefully deliver another massive away performance. But before you go, I've got one random question to ask you. And you've already heard the random question this season. You've already been on. So you're back, and we've got to change it up now. So it's Christmas time. So why not ask you a Christmas themed question? Right. What would be your favourite Christmas film of all time, and why?
It's interesting because I like films that people don't traditionally like. Who are me, like middle-aged men. Like I actually quite like Four Christmases. I don't. It's a good one. I can't remember who's in it. Well, I know the faces. Reese Witherspoon and that other chap. And they're quite good. So I do like that one. I like Elf. I was never really a big fan of Elf, but I've got a 5-year-old now who loves it, and I tend to watch it like 2-3 times every Christmas because he always asks for it. So I kind of got into that one. But I'm gonna go proper typical middle-aged man and say Die Hard because Die Hard is a Christmas film before anybody says it isn't. It 100% is.
Well, you sparked some debate in the comments there for sure. Do you prefer watching Die Hard or watching Burnley?
This season, Die Hard.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. I hope it does get better for you. I suppose when you're in the Championship, just to ensure that we stay in the Premier League. But thanks so much for coming on, Joe.
No, thanks. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to come on the show, mate.
No worries. So hopefully Everton can get that win. 4 away wins in a row would be an absolute joke. Guys, if you think that's going to happen, let me know in the comments. Give me your predictions as well. If it does, then we really do just make a massive gap between us and any danger, and we're looking up then. You think we'd be 10th now if it wasn't because of the deduction, and hopefully we can get a few of them points back too. Well, that's all for now. We'll speak to you in a bit.